Hi, folks. It's Tyson coming to you today from my home office, and I'm here to share a really valuable document with you that can support you with your homeschooling experience. So, first of all, if you can hear me, but you can't see any images on the screen or in the video, what you probably need to do is stop and open the video in a different type of media player. I believe that this one works with VLC, or you may have a different type of media player that will show you both sound and images at the same time. So I hope that's going to work out for you. Now, the goal of me sharing this is to hopefully allow you to feel empowered and more confident with the teaching that you're doing at home, and also ideally to allow you to make some decisions to make your teaching a little bit more personalized or individualized for the student that you're working with. So there are three different sections we're going to look at: social studies, science, and math. And each document is a little bit different. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the social studies document. I will be sending you a package with different links to all of the different documents here: social studies, math, and science. And unfortunately, the ELA document is a little bit different and a little bit more finicky to work with, I guess we can say. So hopefully we can cover that at a later time. Anyway, the first thing that I want to show you is that these are the links that you can use to access the different websites. And we're going to have a look at what the social studies website looks like. So you can see, zoom in this way a bit better. You can see here that there are all of these different links. This is for grade 1 social studies, but fortunately, each of the social studies websites for each grade level is similar. And we're looking at a couple of key parts here. So first of all, this yellow box highlights these documents: cluster 1, cluster 2, and cluster 3. Each of those documents is about 20 to 30 pages, and what it shows you is specific activities that you can do with your students. The other important thing to look at is this one here, Blackline Masters, and that document is the handouts or the printouts that you can use to support the activities that are described in these documents here. You'll also see these other appendices that you can use if you want to. One that you might find useful is Appendix F, which has recommended learning resources. And so those would be things like websites, there might be books in there may be videos that you can use to support the learning also. But today we're going to be focusing on these documents called Foundation for Implementation and these handouts, the Blackline Masters. So let's check out our Foundation for Implementation document. You see here that this indicates on the right side that it's for grade 1, cluster 1, and the unit or the cluster is called I Belong. And the theme for grade 1 social studies here is connecting and belonging. The first thing that you're going to see is these lists of sort of point form notes and these funky letter number combinations. Those are what are called SLOs, and that stands for specific learning outcome. So the idea is that each activity that's described in here is intended to help students either develop a certain understanding about something or to develop a certain skill that they can use. Those SLOs indicate what they're learning. And you'll see each activity indicates which SLO it's working towards. We'll get to that a little bit more in a moment. So these are the SLOs. Here, this part talks about cluster assessment. Assessment is a really common word that is used in teaching, and really what it means is taking the time to see what your student has learned after doing the activities. So ideally, after they've finished the activities, they can tell you what they've learned or show you what they've learned. Either that might be in writing or with a picture or with something that they've produced. And as you can see, Some suggestions for assessment or to see what the students learned here are doing a portfolio or connecting and reflecting, which gives the student a chance to think about what they've learned and then write about it or demonstrate that in some way. Here is the cluster description where it talks about what the students will learn, some of the ideas, and you see a note here about Appendix F, which we saw on the website. So some suggested learning resources that might support the lesson and the teaching that you're doing. Now we're going to move on to some of the activities. And what you'll see in this social studies document is that they talk about activating, acquiring, and applying. That's more common language used by teachers, and it's a useful way to approach learning in the classroom because it talks about the idea of, first of all, activating, finding out what the students already know about the topic. Acquiring is when the students are actually learning new information. That might be from a video or from reading something or from you telling them or sharing information with them. And then the final step, applying, is when the students actually take the time to do some writing or demonstrate what they've learned, to apply the new skills or new ideas that they've learned. So we see here those outcomes that we saw before. So we know what the student is trying to learn or what we're hoping the student learns from doing this activity. And it gives us a description here of what the student can do. Students can brainstorm various groups in their school and community and discuss why groups are important to them. You'll see that there are a couple different options here, and it's got or in between. So you can do one of them. If you wanted to, you can do both of them. That's up to you. Then we have some acquiring activities here. Students use a W5 strategy, who, what, where, when, and why, to describe groups with which they identify. Who belongs to the groups? What activities do they do? Where do they meet? When do they meet? Why do they meet? How am I connected? So these are all questions to get students thinking about these different ideas. The thing I want to highlight for you is this point right here that says BLM 1.1.1a, personal identity, my groups. So that this little sign here means that there is a handout that goes along with it. And remember, you can get that handout from this link on the website right here. Right now, we're looking at this document, Cluster 1, I Belong, and I'm going to flip us to the Blackline Masters here. So we're looking at this activity using BLM 1.1.1a, and I've got that right here. So your student can, oh, this is activity C. Always make sure that you double check here. So make sure you're using the right handout with the right activity because that can get very confusing. So let me check this out here. Let's find 1.1.1a. Here we go. So we've got 1.1.1a in the top corner. And then here we go. The students can do some brainstorming or write down some ideas based on this activity. So you see 1.1.1a, 1.1.1b, and again, you'll notice that it's saying you can do this activity or this activity. Again, it's your choice, and depending on how you know your student or what they're interested in, they might want to do one activity over the other, and hopefully you can make a good informed decision about that. Okay, so we're going to continue here to look at the applying. We've got an applying activity here, personal identity illustrations. Students are going to draw pictures to illustrate their participation in groups with which they identify. Students share their pictures and explain why belonging to different groups is important to them. So let's find this Blackline Masters 1.1.1d. Illustrations. Here we go. Now, I've downloaded these on my computer. That's why I have them in that file. But of course, you could download them all at once, or you can download them one at a time as you need them. That's your choice. So here we go, 1.1.1D, personal identity illustrations, and here's the worksheet that can help support that activity. So some parents have told me either they have worksheets that could be useful, but they don't know what the activity is supposed to be to go along with that. And other parents have told me the reverse, that they have ideas that they want to use, but they don't have worksheets to go with those. So I'm hoping that this video can help you make that connection between those two things. So we're applying, and then let's have a look at the last thing here. Oh, that is the last thing. Okay. There we go. So that's not the end of our document. There are more other activities that we can work on. Here's another learning experience about cultural expressions. We see activate. Here we have acquire, and here's another note for a Blackline Masters handout that we can use. And then, of course, we can finish it up with applying so that you can see what your student has learned and how they can show that to you. And then more Blackline Masters that you can use to support that learning. Perfect. The other thing is you don't always have to use those Blackline Masters. You can see that these activities here don't include a BLM to go with them. But that's because these are things that don't rely on a handout. And these sometimes are the ones that are more interesting or more exciting for students. This example, students can create a culture and identity multimedia presentation. So that could be something like maybe they make a collage from magazines, or if your student is into YouTube and videos, maybe your student can make a video that shows their learning. So that's what I mean when I said earlier, you can use this to get some of your own direction or to empower yourself and make decisions that are going to help your students learn in ways that are exciting and engaging and more individualized for them. So I hope this video was useful. And of course, we can ask any questions. We can talk more in the future. And thank you for tuning in and checking out what I had to say.